Morning arrived without ceremony. It slipped into the room the way it always did, pale and quiet, touching the edge of the curtains and tracing a thin line across the wall. Sarah noticed it only because her eyes were already open. She had been awake for a long time, staring without really seeing, her body heavy and unmoving, as if gravity had quietly doubled overnight. Her phone lay face down on the nightstand, but she could almost feel it buzzing anyway, phantom vibrations from responsibilities she couldn't meet. Emails unanswered, messages unopened, tasks stacked so high in her mind that trying to reach for even one felt impossible. This was the state she feared most, though fear barely had energy anymore. It wasn't panic, it wasn't sadness with tears. It was the freeze, that numb, suspended place where even wanting to want felt like too much. Her thoughts moved slowly, like they were wading through deep water. She knew intellectually that she should get up. She knew the words people used: discipline, motivation, pushing through. Those words echoed faintly, then dissolved, useless against the weight pinning her to the bed. Her chest felt tight, but not sharply so. More like a constant pressure, as if someone had laid a flat stone over her sternum. Her breath stayed shallow, barely lifting her ribs. Every part of her body seemed to be conserving energy, holding still in the way animals do when escape feels uncertain. She had once blamed herself for this, called it weakness or laziness, replayed old criticisms in her head. But now, lying there, she remembered something different, a quieter explanation that didn't accuse. This isn't failure, she told herself. This is protection. The thought didn't suddenly make her feel better, but it softened something inside. The freeze response wasn't her body betraying her. It was her nervous system doing exactly what it had learned to do under too much stress for too long. Burnout had crept in slowly, disguised as responsibility and resilience, until one day her system had decided the only safe option was stillness. She resisted the urge to negotiate with herself. No grand plans, no promises about fixing her life today. Instead, she reached for something smaller, almost absurdly small. A micro-habit, a signal of safety, not a command. Without lifting her head, Sarah gently pressed her heels into the mattress. The movement was so subtle that if someone were watching, they might not have noticed it at all. She pressed, released, then pressed again. The fabric beneath her feet wrinkled slightly. She noticed the firmness of the bed, the way it pushed back. Her toes flexed on their own, sending a faint ripple of sensation up her calves. She named it silently: pressure, warmth, contact. Then she widened her attention, not to her thoughts, but to her senses. She felt the coolness of the air on her forearms where the blanket had slipped, the weight of the blanket over her hips, the pillow cupping the side of her face, the dull hum of traffic somewhere far away. 5 sensations, no judgment, just noticing. At first her mind kept drifting, trying to pull her back into the fog of everything she wasn't doing. She gently returned, again and again, to what her body could feel right now. With each return, something shifted, almost imperceptibly. Her jaw unclenched a fraction. Her shoulders dropped a few millimeters closer to the mattress. She placed one hand on her chest, feeling the faint, steady thump of her heart beneath bone and muscle. The other hand rested on her belly, just above her navel. Her breath was still shallow, but now she was aware of it. She didn't force it deeper. She simply invited the exhale to linger a second longer than the inhale. In through the nose, out through slightly parted lips. Slow but not strained. The first few breaths felt awkward, like her body didn't quite trust the instruction. Then gradually the rhythm settled. The hand on her belly began to rise just a little. The pressure in her chest eased enough that she noticed it had been there at all. Her nervous system, so accustomed to bracing, seemed to pause, listening. "You're safe enough," she thought. Not as an affirmation, but as a question her body could answer on its own. Memories flickered at the edge of her awareness. Late nights staring at a screen, saying yes when she wanted to say no, carrying other people's expectations like weights she hadn't agreed to lift. Each memory threatened to pull her back under, but she stayed with the physical sensations instead. The bed, the breath, the warmth of her hands. Time passed differently in this state. A minute stretched wide. She didn't know how long she lay there, but at some point she noticed something new. a subtle tingling in her fingers, like circulation returning after being cut off. Her feet felt warmer. The stone on her chest hadn't vanished, but it felt thinner, less oppressive. She swallowed, surprised by the small surge of emotion that followed. Not sadness, exactly. More like relief mixed with grief for how long she had been stuck here without understanding why. Her eyes stung, but she didn't cry. She simply let the sensation be there. Another piece of information rather than a problem to solve. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand for real this time. The sound made her flinch, a sharp reminder of the outside world. Instinctively, her body tensed again, shoulders lifting, breath hitching. She noticed it immediately. Instead of scolding herself, she returned to the micro-habit. Feet into the mattress. Slow exhale. Hand on chest. The tension softened. Not gone, but manageable. She didn't reach for the phone. She didn't sit up. That wasn't the goal. The goal was to teach her nervous system something new, that stillness didn't have to mean shutdown, and movement didn't have to mean overwhelm. There was a middle ground, and she was touching it now. A thought arose, gentle and tentative. Maybe today didn't need to be conquered. Maybe it just needed to be entered carefully. For the first time that morning, Sarah felt a hint of choice return. Not the kind that demands action, but the kind that allows possibility. She stayed where she was, breathing, feeling, letting her body thaw at its own pace. The freeze hadn't disappeared, but it had cracked. Light, thin and real, slipped through the opening, and her system responded, not with urgency, but with a quiet, fragile yes.